Hello, my name is Chris Fromm, and I have been with PMBR for 2 decades now. And in those 20 years, one thing I've come to know, whether it be sitting at a table making sales to my other third years, or whether it be as the national lecturer for the 3-day exam, that PMBR gives students a leg up. It's an insurance policy for the MBE. Why is PMBR the right choice for the MBE? I think this is true for several reasons. First and foremost, the MBE has grown in its importance. It is now more important and more difficult than ever before. And I put importance and difficult together because of what it does to a student's score. Most jurisdictions now, 50% of the score is coming from the MBE. It's really the driver in success. It's the driver in passing or failing. And over those 20 years, both taking the exam and teaching toward the exam, I know that PMBR questions are test-like. Every question that we cover has strategic advice, not just why A is right, but why B and C and D are wrong, and why those answer choices are to be avoided. The strategic advice in attacking questions is the gold standard when it comes to MBE preparation. And finally, PMBR always has been and continues to be designed to fit with any commercial course. The simulated exam that I was speaking about, the 3-day as it's known, is legendary. Why? Because it provides real testing conditions which are essential to success on the actual exam. You sit down and you do a 200-question exam, just like the actual bar. And after you take the exam over those next 2 days, you are looking at not just substance, but skill, how to really work through questions in each of the 7 MBE subjects. And we're working on strategy, on tactics and skills. We're not just simply saying, oh, these are the 4 elements of negligence. Of course, we're looking at the law, but we're really looking at application at this point. After these 3 days, students can now better assess what to do over the final 2 weeks before the actual bar. I did really well in tort, so maybe I should move into con law where I was weak. Or, I always fall for this kind of trap answer. These things are going to help students increase their score over those last 2 weeks to 10 days when they can really affect their scores the most. And many of you are familiar with PMBR and the 3-day and the simulated review, but are you aware of all of the features and some new additions? The MBE changes. Therefore, almost every administration of the bar exam, PMBR's 3-day is changing as well. It's a moving target, and I think we do a fantastic job of trying to hit that moving target to make our simulation look and feel exactly like the bar. No course is more dynamic in that sense because literally we're adding questions every administration, so we're talking twice a year. And whether a student is a first-time taker or repeating the exam, PMBR offers the most up-to-date materials that are going to track the exam's every move. So if there's something new on the MBE that we heard about, you know that students taking PMBR's 3-day are going to hear about it in advance of their exam as well. Now, I think I would not do the course justice if I didn't give you a preview of what the approach looks like. And you may remember if you've gone through PMBR yourself, or maybe you want to see it for the first time. But here's a typical approach to a question. This question looks and feels test-like. What do I mean? It's got a call. The call of the question, the interrogatory, is closed in that it ends with a question mark. It's giving a task to the student. It then has 4 answer choices, 2 yeses, 2 nos, or 2 in the affirmative and 2 in the negative. And then, of course, it has a fact pattern. Now, our approach has been and will continue to be know as much about what your task assigned is before you start reading the facts. Well, therefore, we start with a call. Here, if the neighbor sues the boyfriend for battery, will she prevail? We know it's not criminal because we have neighbor and boyfriend. It's a civil action. And that's really important to point out, right? Because battery could be a crime or it could be a tort. Here we know it's a tort. Why? Because it's neighbor and boyfriend. So before I start this fact pattern, I don't know anything other than we're going to see a neighbor, we're going to see a boyfriend, and we're going to see the harmful and offensive contact with a person of another. And if we see that, then likely there's going to be a prevailing suit on behalf of the neighbor. If we don't see that, or maybe there's a defense available, then the neighbor is likely going to lose. But I know so much about this fact pattern before I start it. Why is that important? Because we have less than 2 minutes to go through a question. Therefore, the more succinct we are in our read, the more efficient we are as we move through the question. Because everybody's going to know the law. Everybody's going to know what the elements of battery are. But is everybody going to be able to spot that we're looking for torts, we're looking for battery, then go into the fact pattern so we can very quickly get rid of answer choices? That's the PMBR advantage. So now let's take a look at our fact pattern. A girlfriend and her boyfriend live together in an apartment building. One evening, they get into a heated argument, and after the boyfriend slapped the girlfriend, and I kind of stop right there and say, there's a battery, a slap, right? But because I started with that call, is that our battery? No, because this is the boyfriend committing a battery against the girlfriend. Our plaintiff is not the girlfriend. Our plaintiff is the neighbor. So that's a red herring. What happened after the slap? The girlfriend left the apartment vowing never to return. As she was hastily walking down the hallway toward the front door, he chased her and begged her to stay. When she refused, he grabbed her arm and tried to apologize. Arguably another battery, but not our battery. The noise from the struggle attracted the attention of a neighbor. Aha! Stage left, enter our neighbor. The neighbor opened the door to her apartment, stood in the hallway watching the girlfriend and the boyfriend grappling with one another. The neighbor started shouting encouragement to the girlfriend. As the struggle ensued, the girlfriend swung her pocketbook at the boyfriend. When he ducked to avoid being hit, he fell backward into the neighbor and accidentally struck her chin with his elbow. The force of the blow fractured the neighbor's jaw. What also do we think is instrumental in teaching students how to prepare for questions? Highlight, circle, underline those things that are important. You can't go back and reread the entire fact pattern. You have to know what's important as you're reading through it. So I would have circled heated argument, slap, grabbing the arm, but I point those out for us because we read that call first, and we know that although that's a battery, it's between the girlfriend and the boyfriend rather than the neighbor. Where does the neighbor enter? Down below. The neighbor shouted encouragement, swung the pocketbook, and then what's most important, accidentally struck her chin. Of course, then you have the blow fracturing the jaw. So there's your harmful or offensive contact with a person of another. But we want to go old school PMBR style, process of elimination. Get rid of wrong answer choices. B, yes, because the boyfriend was careless. Careless, does that go to the intentional tort of battery? No, it maybe speaks to falling below the standard of care for negligence. Since it doesn't go to the cause of action that we are seeking, we're going to get rid of B. Increase our chances of getting this right. And then I kind of say, is this really D? The boyfriend acted in self-defense. Is this a self-defense situation here? No. So we get rid of D. So we're looking at A and B, or A and C rather. And I think a lot of students are like, oh man, why did I get it down to a yes and a no? I wanted to get it down to the two yeses or the two nos. Well, have some confidence, my friends, because really, this is the difference between the law now, right? We've just doubled our chances of getting this question right, because now we've gotten rid of two answer choices. And really, isn't it a rule of law that separates A and C? A, yes, because an offensive touching occurred. That's absolutely true. But is there intent here? No, there's no intent because it was accidental. So it can't be a yes because we're missing an element. Therefore, it's got to be a no. And that's old school PMBR style at its finest, my friends. Skill before substance. Everybody's going to know the law, but not everybody's going to be able to navigate these very craftfully written questions by the National Conference. And one thing that we are teaching students is not just to say A is wrong or B is wrong or C is right, but why. Can you articulate the type of answer, or can you articulate what that answer is saying that makes it wrong? That's what we're looking at as we move through our simulation. And one thing that we have really worked on with students is categorizing the pathology of a wrong answer, because some are not sufficient, some are unnecessary, some are true, but they're irrelevant. Some factually or legally mischaracterize our fact pattern or our rule of law. Other answer choices are extreme. And I kind of showcase a little bit about each one, but if it's not sufficient, it's got like one element that's needed, but it's missing maybe another element. Or it's not necessary. Maybe it actually throws out an element that we don't need for this cause of action. Oftentimes something's true, but it's completely irrelevant. It's like, oh yeah, that is true, but does it have to deal with our fact pattern? If not, it's probably a wrong answer. But that's a type of pathology, right? That's what makes that answer wrong. And then it could factually or legally mischaracterize what we just read. And then sometimes it's extreme because they use words like always or never, and we're cautious about those in answer choices. So this is great, but can we put that into play in the question that we just did? Let's look at that again. If the neighbor sues the boyfriend for battery, will she prevail? A, yes, because an offensive touching occurred. That's absolutely true. An offensive touching did occur, but it's insufficient. Why? Because the intentional tort of battery requires intent. Therefore, one element that's there is good, but because we're missing an element, it's insufficient. B, because the boyfriend was careless. Again, that's irrelevant, right? Or it's unnecessary because that is an element of negligence, but not an element of battery. And again, I don't care what the answer says. It's about categorizing that wrong answer. Because if we can categorize it, then we can repeat that skill. And when we can repeat a skill, we can rely upon it in the exam. And then D, the boyfriend acted in self-defense. That's really a legal mischaracterization when it comes to the neighbor here. And then, of course, answer choice C is going to be correct because it gets us the right conclusion and for the right rationale. Really the opposite of A. Although an offensive touching occurred, it was accidental, i.e. it was without intent. So yeah, you could just do a bunch of multiple choice questions, or you can simulate the exam in every way with PMBR's 3-day final review. It is legendary for a reason, and I hope that you and or your students and colleagues continue to see the value that PMBR places, really that insurance policy, in getting students those extra couple points. Take care.